members that are within Pensacola. So here are different options. One of the options that and please help me out with more if we can do that, but my ideas and options are, let us have a couple of them. The first one, yes, find a place here in Pensacola as well as over there. I think they deserve the right over there in Alabama to start a mission there too. They have traveled a long time, they have put the claim in, let us do something where we are. I think that is just as right as for you to say, look, we want to keep our congregation going here. So if we have 25 members over here in the Alabama side, we have 25 members that come here in Pensacola. That gives both of you a charge, but it also requires something, and I have to be very open, very frank about it. That requires a commitment by everybody to attend the services and to make sure that the congregation grows and the congregation prospers. I've been too many times down the road, up the road here, where somebody says, sure, we'd like to have our congregation, and then at the end it was just me and my wife in the mission that started to carry it. That's not the right thing. So I am fully open for making the proposal to have a mission here, to have a congregation here, have a congregation over there in the area that these people over there can choose, and then everybody has the choice to go where they want to go. You know?
You're talking about just us going to Alabama. What about Slidell? I understand that one's being closed also.
No, that is wrong information.
That's wrong information.
That is wrong. Whoever brought that up, I have never discussed it with anybody, that we closed that congregation. But that said, let us be realists.
Okay.
Slidell is how many members? Four members. But
they just invested how many thousands of dollars after the hurricane to rebuild it?
Correct. And
I don't know how many. I don't know how much was sent from Germany. They gave a quote as to the figure. It was an astronomical figure, and it was in euros, which to the dollar is considerably more.
Right.
And they rebuilt that one without question.
So, but again there, well, that was a little bit a different thing in fairness, because that church was completely contaminated. I mean, there was nothing we could do anymore unless we would have restructured it. And we wanted to do that. Well, let me finish my second. And we want to do that with the hurricane and everything, and the hope, that we can get some people in the neighborhood to drum up, to get something going. We charged the priest there too, now realizing it's just it's two families, basically, And so we gave them the charge. We tried to help them out a little bit and to pump them up again. We went for many weeks here, helping them out in the neighborhood, wherever we can get something going. If it doesn't work at the end, there's not much I can do for it, I mean, we tried the best to make this a nice church building again, open it up for the neighborhood too, for the environment, people. We had different activities in there, but at the end, the people themselves must make the congregation,
I think that congregation was bigger prior to Katrina. A lot of those people did not return to that area.
That is probably true.
That's not the churches.
Right.
They rebuilt, but many of those people started lives elsewhere.
So, okay, and that's another handicap then, obviously, if you have to just fall left, But I have to be honest with you, that was not our intent to close that. I've never discussed closing the church until now, but I can also understand for people. I mean, that's not a congregation to me. For people, that's a mission, And of them, there are two youngsters, two teenagers, and put yourselves in the shoes if you have two teenagers and a dad and you have nobody else around. If these guys want to come over to something like that, on a trial basis or something like that, I wouldn't object that, but there's no intent of, I've never discussed something in the church.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question.
Please.
Okay, the last service here is going to be November 8th. Where do we go after that? I mean, people are asking me, they're asking from different areas.
Okay.
Where do we go?
Good point here. Let me do something. Let me call Chicago tomorrow and see whether we can get an extension on that, whether it's feasible, that we can stay a little bit more in. But if not, if we cannot stay, one thing I don't want, that we are pushed into something that we don't like. So I'm willing, as a medium step, to look at a facility, at a hotel room somewhere where we can meet until we find a proper location. But I want to talk about Pensacola anyhow. In general, that's what I would like to do. But Pensacola itself, now we have two locations. We would have one in Alabama and we would have one in Pensacola. And the Pensacola people then, just like you Alabama people, I would expect that you come to the table in both locations and you make this a nice attending congregation, you know. And then I would say there are a couple of handicaps and a couple of question marks in the Pensacola thing, not from my end, but personal matters too, and some families that need to be clarified first. So what my proposal would be, and on the Pensacola side, that we look for, like we do in 2-3 other congregations where we are, look for a nice room, facility in a hotel.
So we're being demoted to a mission again?
No.
We went from a mission, from a storefront to a church, now back to a storefront.
What would you like?
I'd like for you to leave the church alone.
The church is sold.
Okay, the church is sold.
So
Build us another one.
let's not go back, you know.
Then you should have...
Build us another one. There's at least
We'll do another
25 members.
for the 25 members.
For 25 members.
Yes.
Okay,
Build
I
us another one.
Apostle Wagner had
Good.
in his
That is correct.
serving thing that if you have
25
25 members, you deserve a church
That was in
building.
1980,
I know, and
We're
we're
in
divorced
2009,
from
and at the
Canada.
moment we're trying to consolidate, make sure that there's life in congregations. You cannot get, you know, with 10, 15, 20 people. I mean, people would like to get to a larger congregation. You would be one of the only ones, if I give somebody a choice, they would say we would be happy to stay at 10, 15, 20 people. Others would like to get where there is life with 50 or 60 or 100 people.
Well, we
so
had...
in light of that, I give you right, the district apostle said that. I have these papers too, but I also see what our chief apostle and the district apostle already to Freund's area came out with, where they said it would be better for us if we would have at least 50 in a congregation. There's a little bit more life in it, there are children hopefully, and everything else in it. So,
That's right.
So I think we can agree that it would be great if it would be 50.
It would be.
For
At one time, though, Pensacola had 4 people in it.
Right.
Priest Robbins, his wife, my husband, and I. That was all that was here.
And Eugenie.
And then when my husband and I were, that was before Jeannie was
before
here.
Jeannie came.
And then when my husband and I were traveling on business, it was Priest Robbins, his wife, and Sister Sakari.
Right.
That's all. And the congregation has grown again. And it looks like it's going to continue to grow. So why take a church building away from us? When you have young children, there are young children here, there are teenage girls here from many different families. Who wants to get married in a strip mall? Who wants to invite their friends to come to get married? Who wants to have a funeral in a strip mall?
To be honest with you, I get more weddings at the moment that people want to hold outside the church building. I get more requests outside the church
Well,
building.
obviously, we're going to have to rent. It's going to then be up to the family to bear the expense of having a wedding or a funeral or whatever in some foreign church building, which is pretty crappy for the
And
New
these other
Apostolic
churches
Church.
charge for that.
Say what?
The other churches charge for that. If you want to hold a wedding in one of their churches,
And that's
you
lousy
pay the
soul
minister,
care for the
you
New
pay for the use of
Apostolic
the
Church.
church or the hall. It gets quite expensive. And I can imagine that in a strip mall would be the same thing.
So I go back to my proposal. I'd like